Welcome back to King's Quest 4, The Perils of Rosella. If you weren't watching last episode, this is a Sierra Online game from 1988, way back in the well before times. This is the very first adventure game that I ever played, or at least that I remember playing, to any kind of degree. We are Princess Rosella. We are here on a quest to find a magic fruit that will heal King Graham, our father, because he's suffered a massive heart attack or stroke, and it's the only thing that's going to restore him to health. And in order to do that, in order to get back home, we need to help the fairy queen Genesta. And what we need to help her with is the problem that we're about to see right now, if I can actually click my way up the path. Oh no, it's Lolotte's goons. So Lolotte is the evil fairy, the bad fairy of this land of Tamir, and she's stolen Genesta's magic talisman, and we need to get it back. Otherwise, Genesta can't help us go back home. Ain't that just a fly in the ointment? So we've been kidnapped by her goons, and here we are. Well, my pets, Lolotte hisses, what have you drug home today? So last time I was talking about how Genesta, the fairy queen, the good fairy, and Lolotte, the evil fairy, were very much modeled after Glinda the Good and the Wicked Witch of the West from the movie Wizard of Oz. And here we can really see that inspiration, at least for Lolotte. The green skin, the black sort of cloak, black dress. It's very, very Witch of the West. A bit of a difference here, you'll notice that Lolotte has a son. That's interesting. Anyway, so now we're being very terrified because Lolotte is being all threatening and not believing that we're just a stupid little peasant girl. She's pretty she's pretty observant. Can't really fool her. So we get thrown in jail, and it's a bad time. Especially when you consider what's going on here. Let's take a look. You have found yourself in a horrible cell. It looks as if others have found their way here too. Hopefully, you won't end up like them. Oh. I remember as a kid playing this, just basically looking at all of the stuff in here, trying to see if there's something that I could pick up, something that would help against Lolotte, but there's nothing in this cell. It's just here for the grim atmosphere, particularly when you consider this skeleton. At least two unfortunate individuals have met their end here. Met their end and have actually decomposed down to the bones. That's a long time. You hear the henchmen returning. Perhaps they are setting you free. That's an odd thing to assume. The henchman motions you to follow him out of the cell. This should be fine. Lolotte gives you a sickly sweet look. You're lucky, my dear. So here, she's basically saying that her precious son Edgar has a little crush on us. So she's like, I'll give you a chance to prove your innocence. So you're going to do some stuff for me. You're going to run some errands for me. And the first thing she asks for is to get her the unicorn that wanders the meadows. So that is our first task. And as a kid, playing this in 1988 or whenever it was I played, I must have played it like around then because I was pretty young when I played this, kind of the first time, and 88 feels like that prime time. All right, whoops, I didn't want to input. There I go again with the trying to control Rosella's movement with WASD. Definitely not going to help. Ooh, well, look at this. A lovely little waterfall. Let's take a look. You see a beautiful waterfall cascading down the mountain into a deep blue pool. From the pool, a river courses westward. Around you, a dense forest closes in. So this took me quite a while to figure out, and in fact, it might have been only with the help of the hint book, the official King's Quest IV hint book. Such a thing existed, and luckily it was like for sale at like this tiny little shop back home. I very much lucked out managing to get that hint book. It was written with sort of this red. You had this little kind of viewfinder with a red cellophane uh, film that you had to like move over the pages so you could read through. It was quite the technological marvel in in the late 80s, although it would have been the early 90s by the time that I'd actually gotten that hit book, because I did finish this game well after I initially started to play it. Right, so the thing that you need to do here, you may remember, if I take a look at my inventory, we got this small crown from the frog prince. And we can use it to turn into a frog. So if I say, wear crown here, kapoof. Now I can actually move around. Oh, actually, it's automatic. I can swim through the waterfall and find myself here in a little cave. That's pretty cool. So the few things here that I can get this board, and we'll just stuff it down the dress because that's where adventure game protagonists store all their stuff. Now, in this cave, we go in. It's very spooky. Oh, and there's a troll. So let's just go back out and just be very calm, and we'll take a peek inside again. Okay, he's still there. Okay, it's all right. Let's try again. There, everything is fine. So let's look. The cave is very dark. Try as you might, you cannot peer through the darkness. So this is a hint that you need a light source, and we do have a lantern. However, going through this cave is fine up until we get to the end of this sequence. And there's an item that I still don't have. But since I'm here, I'm going to take a look at the ground. You see a pile of bones by the cave entrance. Let's get ourselves one of those bones. Yes, so past this cave, you basically go through the mountains and you emerge in a swamp. And that's where that magical fruit we're going to need. But there's a particular item that I don't have yet, so we'll come back later. Whoops. Let's wear the crown. And let's get the heckins out of here. You're a little froggy. Am I going to leave? You don't like the clammy feeling of being a frog. Uh-oh. Oh, wait, can I just swim out? Maybe I can just swim out. I can't swim in. Yeah. But I can swim out, and it's fine. So the magic tree that has the fruit is being guarded by something that I need an item for. So we might as well actually go find that item right now. You see that house in the distance? Let's go take a visit. Let's go take a visit in this very spooky house. Look at this. Look at this place. Indeed, this is a spooky old house. It looks as if no one has lived here for many years. Flanking the old house on both sides is a rundown cemetery. A thick forest looms all around. Spooky. Now, I was reading. I forget where I found this information. It may have been online in maybe on the King's Quest wiki. But look at the shading that's done here on the house. It's because this release, I think, is one of the later releases that was done after they had compressed the game a little bit to reduce the number of discs or diskettes that the game could fit on. I think in the original release, the actual face of the house was a more uniform gray, even a lighter gray. But what they did to reduce the size of the game is many of the screens were modified so that they wouldn't require two separate screens for night and day. So this sort of shading is a bit more representative of what it looks like at night. And I think all they had to do was change the way that the sky looks like. But the rest of this manor, and maybe even, well, the ground would probably be a darker shade at night. But the house itself, this is very much the the shading and that particular dithering that it's doing. That's more of how it would look at night in the original version. So to save space, they've kind of combined some of the day and the night. Or so the internet would have me believe, which I'm ready to believe actually, because I don't remember this house always being this dark. But that was a lot of rambling. Well, first, let's knock at the door. That's not knock. That's not a word. Knock door. With trepidation, you rap on the door. Not surprisingly, nobody answers. Let's look at the house. This is not a pleasant house. In fact, it's downright scary. It looks old and abandoned and badly in need of tender, loving care. I didn't know that was like a compound word. To make matters worse, it sits right in the middle of an old cemetery. This really leads to a lot of questions about who lives in Tamir. Because right now we've met a hostile evil fairy and a bunch of dwarves. And also a prince who was a frog? There are many questions. But anyway, let's go in. Hoo hoo hoo. Very spooky. This is the entry room of the old house. Downstairs, you see 2 open doorways, and upstairs, you see an additional 2 doorways. I mean, I don't know if it's necessary for all of that text. We can plainly see. The room is cobwebbed and dusty, with wallpaper peeling from the walls. I'm not sure if it's said in game, but it's known as the Old Watley Manor, or Old Waitley. I'm not sure how you're supposed to say that. Let's take a look around. This is a neat little effect. Look, mirror. It's a working mirror in a video game. Let's take a look over here. Look. This old dining room has seen better days. The long table is littered with crumbs and dust, and against the wall, the empty hutch is covered with cobwebs. There's not too much that we can do right now in this house, so I'm not going to bother too much. The old kitchen is quite bare. The fireplace has been cold for years, and the dusty pantry is empty, but for old crumbs. Yep, very very nice house. Yep. Upstairs are just some bedrooms. We will be coming back here once night falls, but for now there's not too much we can do. Except if we're here. Look. Considering the disarray of the rest of the house, the parlor looks in relatively good order. However, the fireplace is cold and unused, the bookshelves are almost bare, and the old furnishings are dusty. Let's take a look at the books. Look, books. You examine the few remaining books on the bookshelves. Only one catches your attention. It is entitled The Complete Works of William Shakespeare. So even in Tamir, they knew who Shakespeare was. Let's get that book. You remove the Shakespeare book from the shelf and carry it with you. Amazing. Now there's something more here that we'll need later on. We might be able to actually do it right now. Let's take a look at the picture, the painting. An interesting portrait of a young girl hangs above the fireplace. You gaze at it intently and notice that her eyes seem to stare at the left wall of the parlor. This was one of the first things beyond those 2 first items that I'd figured out as a kid without use of the hint book. This was a very fun discovery for me. So if you take a look at the wall, you examine the left wall very closely and notice a little latch. Ho-ho! Let's flip that latch. Behold, you have discovered a secret door. This was very exciting. Go here, and we find ourselves in a tower with a shovel. I mean, we'll always need a shovel. And let's go upstairs. There's nothing that I can do to progress story upstairs, but there's a little bit up here that I remember painstakingly trying to figure out. Speaking of painstakingly, I have to be very careful not to fall down. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm going to take a little time and we're going to fast forward as we climb this this staircase. See you up there. Whew, we made it. Okay. So up here, In the tower, we see an organ. Let's take a look around. A dusty old pipe organ sits in the center of the tower room. Oops, there we go again. Trying to control with WASD. So this was very exciting finding this. So let's have a sit and play. I mean, she's pretty good. What a virtuoso you are, Rosella. Yes, indeed. Well, there's nothing more that we can do here. We are going to have to come back, but at the moment, there's nothing left to do. So let's get up. Now, notice over here, this, it's probably a little bit easy to guess what this is. This is really sort of a little hole in the floor, isn't it? But as a kid, and you'll remember, I told the story of how we just had like a very bad monitor. It only had 3 colors. It was yellow, brown, and orange. And even though when you look at this now, it is orange and yellow, we didn't have white, so white wasn't a color. So anyway, this whole thing looked very different. And combined with the fact that I was a tiny, stupid child, I didn't piece together that this represented a hole in the floor, and I thought it was a toy airplane. But in my defense, just take a look at it. Doesn't it look a little bit like a toy airplane on the ground? So I was like doing look airplane, and the game's like, what are you what are you on drugs? This is not an airplane. And similarly over here, I thought that this block of pixels was a flute. So same thing. I was like, look at flute, get flute. To which the game was like, no, you're stupid. Get out of here. So let's get out of here, shall we? Okay, so once again, we're going to fast forward to when I'm at the bottom of the tower. See you there. Okay, we made it down the stairs. Nobody has as much trouble navigating staircases than characters in Sierra games. It is absolutely ludicrous. All right. So we now have a very important item, that Book of Shakespeare. Now we need to track down another character to potentially give this to. This is a staple of adventure games. Every item that you get is either going to be traded in to somebody else for something else of importance, or it's going to be used in some way. Ooh, but look at this place. This rundown, gloomy cemetery gives you the creeps. Many of the old tombstones have fallen over, and the entire place is overgrown with grass and weeds. All of the tombstones have different inscriptions, so let's take a look at this one. Look, tomb. Many graves with crumbling... Okay, look, grave. Look at this grave specifically, the one that's in front of you, Rosella. Look, tombstone? Oh, okay, yes. So again, as a kid, trying to come up with all different phrases to get more information, and you have to find the word that the game is expecting. And in this case, it's epitaph. What 7-year-old kid, tiny child, stupid brain mind, knows the word epitaph, especially one who's French? Anyway, read epitaph. 1643. Here lies Newberry Will. His life was finished 'cause he took ill. But none'll miss him, he should have been wiser. 'Tis his own fault for being such a miser. There's a weird beat there, a weird meter to that epitaph. But anyway, the point is there are specific graves that are really important here for later on. So we'll get to this when night falls, and we'll read the rest of the epitaphs. For now, there is a specific person that we're looking for. We might get a glimpse of the unicorn somewhere. I know the unicorn has specific screens. But here's the character we're looking for. Whoops, and I messed it up because I went on the wrong screen. Okay, good, he's still here. Fantastic. He didn't have time to run away. Oh, buddy. Oh, buddy. Look, the scent of wildflowers fills the air in the lovely green meadow. Look, man. You see a rather jaunty-looking fellow who appears to be a wandering minstrel. He seems to be a lute player. Look, minstrel. Okay, so it's just going to take the same thing. Talk, minstrel. You say hello to the minstrel, who looks at you in surprise. Well, well, who do we have here? He asks. You introduce yourself as Rosella. Hello, Rosella, the minstrel says. Let me play for you one of my favorite tunes. And he begins to play an old ballad. Unfortunately, it appears that his musical skills are quite limited as he plucks and pings his way through an otherwise beautiful song. Oh, buddy. Buddy. Now, if you keep talking to him, you unthinkingly speak to the minstrel again, who immediately begins playing another bad rendition of a favorite oldie but goodie. Oh, that's like that's Genesta's theme, I believe. He's not doing too much of a bad job there, but definitely could be a little bit better. This is another example where the field should be a little bit more brighter green, like the tree should be not as shaded, but it's that sort of saving diskettes that they wanted to do by being able to reuse a scene for night and day, and they just needed to change the sky. It's a bit unfortunate because this should be a bit more vivid green. Oh well, let's keep talking to the minstrel. The minstrel seems quite pleased that you appreciate his music so much. He obviously loves the attention as he goes into an out-of-tune version of Greensleeves. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Ooh. So the Greensleeves is sort of the unofficial, or maybe even official, theme of the King's Quest series, especially the early ones. King's Quest 1, 2, 3, and now 4. Well, actually, you don't really hear it much in 4. It was really more of the first 3, I think. It's very interesting because it's obviously kind of played a lot at Christmas. So when it plays during Christmas, I always associate that with King's Quest. Can we get anything more? You can't get enough, can you, Rosella? This guy obviously loves an audience as he takes you through another popular ballad. Oh my. Now, I thought that he would eventually... Yeah. I thought that he would eventually kind of give you a hint of what he wants. I mean, I suppose you're supposed to think, well, he's really bad at playing this lute. Maybe he would be better off doing something else. So what you're supposed to do is give him the book. You hand the Shakespeare book to the minstrel. Curiously, he opens it and begins to read aloud, first hesitantly, then with increased Let's try that again. Then with increased forcefulness as he begins to get into it. Acting! Suddenly, he stops and looks at you. This is wonderful, he exclaims. This gives me a new lease on life. No longer am I a mere minstrel. Now I will become a famous actor. To be or not to be. How's that? He then gives you his lute, bids you farewell, and wanders off to stardom. Ah, well, good luck. Good luck, pal. And we never saw him again. But now we have a lute. Let's play it. You can't do that now. What? Why can't? Give me one good reason, video game, why I can't play this lute. Look, lute. There it is. It even comes with musical notes. Seriously, I can't play the lute? You can't do that now. Oh. Well, that's quite rude. Okay, now we have this lute. You may remember a little bit earlier, or last episode, we met another character with a penchant for music, and here he is. It's Pan. You see a lively creature who is, at the same time, both man and goat. He's greatly enjoying his flute music. Now, can you talk to Pan? You attempt to speak to Pan, but he pays you no mind. He's too wrapped up in his flute music. So this is supposed to hint at the fact that he only really responds to music. So now I should be able to play the lute. There we go. So Rosella is both a virtuoso at the organ and the piano, presumably, and she can also play the lute much better than the minstrel. Pan has ceased his dancing and now looks at you and the lute curiously. And that's the hint that we should give the lute to Pan. Okay. Pan gratefully accepts your gift of the lute, and in return he gives you his flute. Lute for flute. Happy now, he dances away with it. Oh, is this like where in King's Quest VII, which also stars Rosella, there's a particular character who you can trade items with, and he always trades items that rhymes. I wonder if they base that on this. Who can possibly tell? And off he goes with his lute. And now we got a flute. Now we have everything we need to cross the swamp, to go through the cave, to cross the swamp, and to deal with whatever's guarding. Oh, let's not be in this screen because we can get badly murdered, and let's not get murdered. Murdered is bad. Let's go through here. There we go. So I'm going to make my way to the waterfall, and that's where we're going to end today for this episode. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you're enjoying this very chill playthrough, going through this very old game, this very classic game from my childhood. For me, this was in my formative years where I learned to really love adventure games, even though I had no idea what I was doing. But I hope you're enjoying it. And if you are, we'll be coming here later. But yeah, give us a like, give us a subscribe to the channel. We do lots of different types of games. And yeah, if you're watching this, hopefully you'll enjoy all the rest. So I bid you farewell. And next time, we're going to go through this cave. So bye-bye and see you then.